Did you know that pattern mixing is one of this year's interior design trends? Interior designer Helen Austen is here to reveal her secrets for mixing patterns in our home. Good morning, Helen.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. Why should we mix patterns in our spaces?
Because it adds a lot of depth and interest.
Okay.
So sometimes if you walk into a space and it feels unfinished or it just feels flat or it lacks something, then sometimes like mixing patterns and having some interest and depth go a long way.
Okay.
So
where do we start when we're talking about this? Because I know that when you're mixing patterns, if you go the wrong way, it can actually feel a little cluttered, a little messy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to give you like 3 things here we definitely want to stick with.
Okay.
First one is make color the thorough line. So in other words, you're going to pull colors from one thing. So we're using wallpaper to start with today, but you could use a pillow, you could use a rug, just have that and you're going to pull colors out of it. So for instance, on this one, we can pull colors of pink. We can pull colors of green as well.
Cool.
Okay.
Yep.
And then over here, we can pull colors from like the reddish colors to blue.
Yeah.
So you get the idea. So we're just pulling colors individually. You can just pull one color and kind of highlight that.
Yeah.
But color needs to be consistent. And then if you master that, then you can venture out into complementary. But that's really the easiest way to start. Pull colors from one thing.
So you're from the one thing, you're building something around something that you really love.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does scale matter? Because I know there's a lot of different sizes and
It
patterns.
does. So here, the difference between scale, we have repeats and patterns. So that has to do with how often this is printed. So this is like one section of all of this floral and it'll repeat in large ways on the wall, right? And then this has a smaller pattern. So it has a smaller repeat. So that's where you want to mix those two. Because the scale, it just is easier on the eye and it brings more interest. Same thing here. This is kind of an in-between.
Would it feel like if you had like a bigger, like almost the same size as this, would it feel like it was too much if you were looking at it, or would it just depend?
It depends.
Okay.
That's where you play with this, which we'll get there on that one too. But it just depends. And this is, you know, kind of something that you just kind of go along and try different. I mean, my process is to try lots of different things and feel like something's not right. And so you just pull it. You just don't do that. So you want to make sure you vary the scale. That is the second thing. And that's actually a really easy thing because you can have like 2 geometric patterns and large and small will actually look okay together.
Okay.
But you don't have to. And I don't recommend always mixing. That's the next point. Is
absolutely. Matching patterns. Do we want to match it all?
No. I would say generally no.
Okay.
So you're mixing irregular patterns with more like geometric clean lines. So we can even go back to here. This is very irregular. All of the wallpaper actually is an irregular pattern, right? So it's organic, it's either floral or it's like a nature scene. And then we pull in more geometric things. And actually, it looks a lot better. So say like this wallpaper, I didn't love when I first saw it. I was like, I don't know. And then when you start adding these layers, though, it looks really nice. It modernizes it, right? Instead of being like, this is 1990s, you know, bed and breakfast. So that's where it makes a lot of difference. It also kind of updates things as well. So don't be afraid to unlike with unlike is actually the key.
Well, and almost like you gave this new life. Like you said, it's not 1990s bread and breakfast anymore when you add these different elements to it.
Now it kind of modernizes it. It's interesting. It adds a lot of depth and interest, which is the goal.
Now, what rules should we keep in mind when we're doing all of this too? Because it probably easy is to make a mistake, and you don't want to do that if you are doing so much to your home.
I don't know. Be adventurous because this is actually can feel a little challenging, but just play with arrangements. This is not a perfect science. It is not at all. Like literally when I do this, I just lay out a whole bunch of stuff and I'll kind of layer things on top and I'll step away. Sometimes I'll literally leave them and I'll come back to it. And this is what I do for a living. So just know that we're even like kind of experimenting before we commit to something to see if it's right. And this surprises myself. Like I like to kind of grab things that I'm not drawn to initially and see if I can make it work. And I'll be honest, like shockingly, I think this could actually be beautiful mixing with the right type of patterns.
For
it
sure.
would be actually really great.
Do you have any, like one last final tip if someone is looking to adventure out a little bit more with some of this stuff, what would you say?
Go online and use inspiration photos. So this is where you can kind of see how other people are mixing patterns and mimic that in little ways and kind of tweak that. So this is where online can actually be really helpful in your creative process.
Do a little research.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Helen, thank you so much.
Thanks.
This is so neat. And you can contact Helen Austen today for your next interior design project too. Visit her website, helenaustin.com. That's Austin with an E-N, and schedule your complimentary discovery call today.
It's no secret that we have already entered a new